How's it going, guys? Alex here. Welcome back to another SSR Nasus video, and today is a special one because this is basically one of my very first SSR Nasus videos, and to be honest, it's the video that kickstarted the growth on my channel. So if you've been following me since then, I really do appreciate you, and of course I appreciate everyone that has subscribed since then. But it's just amazing to see how far I've come since this video, so I thought we'd go ahead and just make an updated version with the new attack all units. But as always, I hope you guys are having a great day, and if you enjoy what you are seeing today, consider subscribing. And of course, if you enjoy any of the other content, then you can subscribe as well if you want so. But let's go ahead and get straight into it. In the number 6 spot comes Chaoman. He honestly isn't that bad. He does have other good things about him despite being an attack all unit. Obviously, we are going to be talking about how good of an AoE he is. But the point is, there are different aspects of his card that are still good. For example, he has a decent leader skill that gives a 60% HP and defensive boost to physical types. He causes mass damage, which is what the majority of the AoEs have, if not all of them. And he also takes 20% of your maximum HP as damage. So that can be a bit of a problem, especially in the World Tournament. And the reason why that is a problem is because you're most likely not going to be running a mono lead, which would give you more health. Granted, 20% isn't that much, but again, because of how hard they can hit, especially during those higher difficulties, that can start to become a problem, especially if you get super attack straight away after you super attack with him. It depends on the setup that you're going with. Unless he's at super attack 10, I would imagine that a few units would survive Chaoman's AoE attack. However, he will take out the majority of them. It can depend on the items that you take as well. If you have a full board of orbs, you're most likely going to be taking out every single unit apart from the STR types. Or if you can survive here and there because maybe you didn't collect enough orbs, and there are different factors that do come into it. You may even decide to bring an item that increases the damage of your units, particularly Chaoman, just to ensure that you're going to take those guys out. His passive gives A key, and he also gets a 3000 attack boost only once when HP is 50% or below. And the problem with this, for one, is that you want to be above that percentage restriction. And the fact that it only activates once is definitely a bit of a letdown. Granted, outside of the World Tournament, it's not too much of a problem because you're most likely going to be running him on a mono lead or heroes. But in the World Tournament, you want to be above that 50% restriction. And of course, if you are using him, as I said before, you're most likely going to be using that nuke lead. But to be honest, overall, as a unit, he just has way too many drawbacks as an AoE. He takes 20% of your health, which again, isn't too much of a problem outside of the World Tournament. But in the World Tournament, it can be a problem, and that is where you're going to use the majority of your attack all units. His passive only activates once, and it's when you're below 50%. And to be honest, this isn't too much of a problem just because of how AoE units are used nowadays. But again, outside of the World Tournament, it just isn't that great. And to quickly talk about his links, to be honest, the only good link there is Fused Fighter. The others just aren't that common or just aren't that good. Fused Fighter at least gives 2 key to, units that have the Fused Fighter link. And the fact that it's one of the most common links in the game definitely is a good thing. But at face value, he just isn't as good as the others. So of course, in the number 5 spot, we have the original AoE unit, and of course he was the first attack all unit. His leader skill gives 3 key and a 3000 attack boost to STR types. It causes mass damage to all enemies. His passive reduces his defense to 0 when he is attacking, and of course he still gets a 7000 attack boost. And if we have a look at his links, he has Hardened Grudge, Saiyan Warrior Race, Super Saiyan, Saiyan Lineage, Berserker, and Fierce Battle. So he does suffer from key links, unlike Chaoman. At least Chaoman does have Fused Fighter, but again, he doesn't have as many drawbacks as Chaoman, and he would hit harder. For one, he has Fierce Battle, he has Super Saiyan, which I would imagine is going to be a very common link in your team, especially if you're going to nuke with Broly. And of course, you would have Super Saiyan 3 GT Goku with that Super Saiyan link. And I would imagine that you would have several more units with that Super Saiyan link, because obviously Saiyans are some of the best units in the game, and it would just make sense. And to be honest, the same thing that I said about Chaoman applies to Broly. You are most likely going to be using the nuke leads, therefore key isn't too much of a problem. But again, you may not even have the nuke lead, therefore key is definitely going to be a bit of a problem. But the best way to go through the World Tournament is with an AoE unit. Therefore, if you don't have a nuke lead and you plan on using an AoE, that is where key starts to become a problem, which is why the next best setup after nuking is most likely just taking a bunch of support units to support your attack all units and allowing them to super attack. That is definitely one area where Chaoman has the advantage. The fact that Chaoman has Fused Fighter and can give himself key is definitely a good thing that Broly doesn't have. But the fact that you need a particular set of units to activate those links and that his passive only activates once is a bit of a shame. However, if it were different, he could have potentially been better than Broly. In number 4, we have Xeno Trunks. He is somewhat similar to Chaoman in the fact that they kind of have a similar passive. They both have a below percentage restriction. So when he is below 80%, he gets 4 key and a 5000 attack boost, and you can see how similar that is to Chaoman. The only difference is that this can activate multiple times and not just once. But again, he does have different areas of his card that are good. For example, his leader skill gives a 30% HP and attack boost to all types, which is decent if you don't have that many good leads. His super attack causes extreme damage to all enemies, and he also gives a 20% attack boost to all allies for 1 turn. His links are the Vegeta family, Cold Judgment, Messenger from the Future, Xenoverse, Shattering the Limit, and Prepare for Battle. So that Prepared for Battle link is now very common. You are most likely going to have several units in your team, especially for the World Tournament with that link. And again, if you're using Xeno Trunks, you're most likely going to be using him with the SS Blue Vegeta. Otherwise, you're most likely going to be putting him in a team that is supported by the units around him. But the good thing is that he doesn't need as much support as the other units because he already has Prepare for Battle. And of course, when your health is below 80%, his passive activates, therefore giving him even more ki and making it easier to super attack. In the number 3 spot, we have Majin Vegeta. He gets an unconditional 50% attack boost at the start of the turn. He causes mass damage and has a rare chance to stun all enemies, and I'm pretty sure that the stun chance is a 15% chance and obviously has a chance to stun all the enemies. His links are Golden Warrior, Super Saiyan, Saiyan Warrior Race, Saiyan Pride, Over in a Flash, Supreme Power, and Shattering the Limit. So his main link here is obviously Over in a Flash, but the thing about Over in a Flash is that it's not as common as Prepare for Battle, but the good thing about it is that it does give 3 ki instead of 2, so if you have several Over in Flash units on your team, then it is easier to support him because of that additional ki, and of course when you do have other support units supporting him, it's obviously easier for him to super attack, and at the same time he still has a decent leader skill if you want to use him for something other than his AoE abilities. He gives a 25% HP and attack boost to Agility, Tech, and STR types, so if you don't have that many good leads, he is a good replacement for the God leads, of course. But one of the things that makes Majin Vegeta one of the better AoE units is that he does have a better team than the others. For example, you have SS Blue Goku, who is definitely one of the better nuke leads. You have Bardock, who is an incredible orb changer. You have several top tier units with Over in a Flash. For example, you have Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, Gogeta, Super Saiyan 3 Goku, the list goes on and on. Granted, this doesn't really matter if you're going with the support item nuking combo. And again, if you aren't using that nuking strategy, he is one of the easier AoEs to use because of how well he can link up with other units, and this would make it easier for him to launch a super attack. In the number 2 spot, we have STR Arale. Honestly, outside of her AoE ability, she is still a very good unit. She has a pretty good passive and link set. Her leader skill, however, is a bit lacking. She doesn't give the health boost that the other units normally give, which is unfortunate because the health boost is definitely one of the bigger things about that stat boost. So attack and defense is nice. The attack is obviously a bit more noticeable than the offense boost unless your defense is naturally high, and you get a higher boost from your passive skill to your defense. However, as an AoE, she is definitely incredible. That 70% attack and defensive boost definitely does make a difference, and the fact that it's over 30% is great because you are most likely never going to go below that 30% if you are consistently healing and obviously taking out the opponent in one shot. And to talk about her links real quick, she has the Innocence, Mechanical Menaces, Shocking Speed, Battlefield Diva, Revival, Shattering the Limit, and Penguin Village. Okay, so despite Arale having that good link set and of course that passive that provides that 70% attack and defensive boost, she also has a farmable super attack. Well, she did at the time when she was released, and I feel like that is one of the things that gives her an advantage because that super attack 10, she hits ridiculously hard, especially the nuke lead. I honestly think that you are able to take the majority of the enemies out, even agility types, at super attack 10 without needing an insane amount of orbs, because normally with a type advantage on disadvantage, pardon me, with that 20 times difficulty, some enemies will be able to survive if you have that type of disadvantage. However, if you spent the time farming her super attack, I honestly don't believe that you're going to be having any problems killing off the entire team in just one shot, especially against some agility types. Granted, there are other units that have higher defensive stats than others, which would make it harder for you to kill them, but for the most part, Arale would be able to take the majority of them out. So, in the number 1 spot comes STR Perfect Cell. Naturally, Cell is the best attack all unit by far, because not only does he have a great link set, but he can also hit extremely hard because of the boost that he gets from his passive. And of course at Super Attack 10, he would have the easiest time taking out every single unit on the offensive team because of how hard he can hit. But here is the problem. If you want to nuke with STR Perfect Cell in the World Tournament, you are very limited because to use his AoE attack, you have to get the 11 key attack, thus making it harder for you to use him, of course, in the World Tournament if you're going with that strategy. However, if you were to use a different strategy, like I mentioned for the other units, just, bringing support units for Cell, which he doesn't necessarily need because he does super attack early. You don't need that 12 key super attack to do the AoE attack. But if you were to go with this strategy on the times 20 difficulty, they will most likely not die because his damage output wouldn't be as high as it normally would be if he was to nuke. Overall, is STR Perfect Cell the best attack all unit? I would say yes. However, in the World Tournament, if you are going with the nuking strategy, which is one of the best strategies so far, I would give the edge to Arale. But overall, Cell is definitely the best one here. But that is it, guys. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you all in the next one.